I've had so many people talk about how the one-to-one coaching model is unsustainable, it's unscalable, and you're gonna be stuck just trading your time for money. And in my experience as a one-to-one full-time coach, that has not been true at all. So today I wanna take you behind the scenes of what the reality of this specific model for your business actually looks like in practice. What are the pros, what are the cons, and what should you be considering if you're thinking about operating with a one-to-one model for your business? We're gonna be doing a little bit of myth busting today and talking about the one-to-one coaching model and why I personally really love this. What are the really good parts? What are the maybe parts that you might need to consider that can be a bit of a challenge? And is this something you should actually be considering for your business? Personally, I've been a full-time one-to-one business coach for about 4 years now. This has been my full-time and only part of my business for literally years. I have just offered my one-to-one coaching program and then some very, very tiny mini offers here and there just sprinkled in, but this has been my business. This entire model has been the way I have run my business. And this has actually been something which has been really, really sustainable for me. And also something which you might not expect how few hours I'm actually on calls, how simple this actually is to run, and just how easy this can actually be if you operate this in the right way. I feel like the one-to-one model often just gets a lot of hate because people think that one-to-one obviously naturally means that I am working individually with a client. So I'm needing to just speak with them, talk to them specifically. A separate client is going to get separate time from me essentially. So it means that yes, of course, I can't serve 100 clients inside this model, but that does not mean it's not scalable at the same time and that it can't actually get you to your business goals, to be honest, a lot faster than other ones can as well. And I want to talk about what are some of these misconceptions firstly. What are some of these things which you've probably heard online and are they actually true from someone who is literally operating their business in this way and has been doing this for years and has a lot of clients that have this type of business model as well? Are these things actually true? Now, the first myth that I want to bust here is the idea that it is not sustainable. So that one-to-one coaching is going to be something where you have to do this big hustle sprint and then you're going to get really burnt out because you have to work so hard to maintain this. And that is honestly just not true if you don't want it to be. So this hugely depends on just how you're setting up your offers, because one-to-one can take so many different forms, right? It can be we're sitting on Zoom calls. It can be you have messenger access for me. And I know so many clients who have that as a part of their business where clients just have messenger access to them, but they don't have any calls. And that is a really big one-to-one component and they make some amazing income from that, but they have a lot of freedom at the same time. So really this just comes down to how you're structuring your offers. So me, for example, and I know a lot of people do this as well, I will have 3 calls a month with my clients, which means that I have an off week then. So I have a week where there's not going to be calls. Any can be rescheduled, of course, if they need to there. If I'm sick, I then have a buffer week. So it's not a big stressful thing there, but it just gives me that extra week and just extra freedom and just flexibility essentially there, which is really nice. But this really just comes down to how you structure your offers. And this is the crazy part, is that this is literally the same for any offer. Like I could say this about a group program if it's not sustainable, because, you know, once you get X number of people inside, then it's not going to work anymore. This kind of applies to any different business model realistically. It just comes down to how you structure the offer. And we're so used to seeing the very, traditional format of one-to-one, which is what I do, of course, in terms of having Zoom calls, several a month. We'll have messenger access as well. We'll do reviews of bits of content, etc. But actually, you have complete freedom and flexibility over how you structure these offers. So you can take this model and decide you want to work one-to-one with clients, but do it through VIP days. You can do it through just messenger access. You can do so many different formats to create something which really fits with your schedule, what's going to work for you, and just give you the flexibility you're looking for there. Now, the second thing that I hear people say all the time is that you can't scale one-to-one coaching. And yes and no would be my answer to that. Yes, of course, you can't scale it, because if you said to me right now, okay, I want you to take on 100 one-to-one clients, that's, I don't think, physically possible. And even if it is, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming in terms of just the time and energy that it takes to work one-to-one with 100 people, right? So it's not scalable in that aspect, but it is actually probably scalable towards what you're wanting your business to look like. I know so many people who have, 10 clients, 15 clients, even 20 clients, and just how they structure their offers means that that is actually pretty manageable for them and gives them still part-time to full-time hours in their business. They're not working ridiculous number of hours, hundreds a week or anything like that. They are actually doing this in a really sustainable way and they've set it up for this. And the thing is, when we're talking about this being scalable, what we really mean is, can this hit the income goals that we have? Does this have the capacity to be able to grow? And the answer is yes for a lot of that. Like if you actually did the maths on looking at what is your one-to-one offer, if you have one already, for example, how many clients could you take? And then you looked at what is the monthly income for that, that would probably be a pretty damn good number. Like you just need to actually get the clients inside that program. And if you did just fully focus on that program, you could actually make really incredible income with very small number of clients because it is a high ticket offer. It's almost easier to scale that than something like a membership, a group program, anything else like that, because for every one-to-one client you get, you would have to get, let's say, 10 group program clients to pay for the same amount that that one-to-one client would have paid you. So I think when we're talking about this question of is something scalable or not, there's kind of two factors to that. Is it physically scalable? As in, is it actually possible for me to hit this certain number? If that's, I want to have 10K months, for example, can I even do this with this certain business model? That's the first thing to do and work out, which you can literally just run the math on that and see if that's actually possible with your current offer and your current capacity with clients. And also there's that second part to that of how easy is it to scale this? And one-to-one is probably one of the easiest ones out there. Because if you think, okay, I want to hit 10K a month, for example, and you were to work out for a group program, how many people would I need inside my group program? It's going to be quite a lot. You're going to need quite a few people inside. There's quite a few people consistently re-signing versus actually one-to-one. You could say, okay, I want to hit 10K months. That could be 8 clients for you. It could be even less. You could be saying, okay, cool. I just need to get 8 people inside working with me. Just 8. That is literally it. And that would get me towards those 10K months, for example. So you can do that actually really simply, and it's easier to scale up to that point. And realistically, if you were to hit those kind of numbers every single month in your business, like that would probably be the thing on your vision board. That's probably the big goal which you maybe have in mind right now. So actually thinking about scalability, not in terms of this, can it be $1 billion program? Like we're not thinking about that at all. And often when people talk about scalability, there's kind of this idea of, okay, is it infinitely scalable? Which most things aren't really. Maybe passive offers, but then again, you need such a ridiculous amount of volume for that it's hard to scale that. But actually, if you look at what is my end goal, essentially in terms of what the monthly income would be, is it scalable to that point? The answer for one-to-one coaching is probably yes, pretty much all of the time for that specific number. And it is the easiest one to scale. So really, when we're talking about scalability, does one-to-one actually tick the box for that? It kind of does for most people. Now, the third and final myth that I want to bust before we talk about the pros and cons of this specific business model is that you don't have freedom with one-to-ones. So I know so many people will think that, okay, this idea of if I had one-to-one clients, if one-to-one was how I was running my business, then I would just be stuck on calls 24/7. I would be on Zoom always. I would just be constantly tied to my clients and have so much work on my plate. And again, that does not need to be true. It's completely up to how you structure this. And that's where I'm going to share the pros and cons of just how you can actually make this really work for you and make this something which can be full-time and also give you all of the freedom as well. But actually, when we talk about, having freedom with one-to-one, actually it's something you can really make possible. So for me, for example, I pretty much on average will have between 5 to 8 one-to-one clients at any one time. And for me, that has been my full-time income for literally like 4 years. That has been the only thing in my business. That has been the one thing I've been doing. And for that, my clients are on packages where they have 3 calls with me a month, and then we have messenger access outside of that. I will check my screen time, and I've checked it before this, so I can get the stats to you. Each day I will spend anywhere between 1 hour to 2 hours on my messaging app Spotlight, and we will actually, have client conversations in there. I'll be voice noting them back and forth, etc. But that is 1 to 2 hours a day for all of those clients. Every single one of those covered in 1 to 2 hours a day for the messages. And then we'll have our 3 calls a month for each of those. So typically, in terms of calls each week, I'll maybe have like 5 hours of calls each week, and then the 1 to 2 hours a day of messages. So that gives actually a lot of freedom in terms of that. And again, the nice thing with one-to-one is that I don't need to be constantly launching. Like I'm not constantly creating a launch plan of, right, this next opening of my group program, we're gonna open doors on this date and we're closing on this date, and I need to have all these emails being sent out, anything complicated like that. I can go this month without signing one-to-one client and it's completely fine. I could not sell anything next month and it would be completely fine because I don't need a big volume. So actually, it is almost one of the ones which gives you the most freedom because I'm not constantly needing to sign new clients. I'm not constantly needing to market, needing to launch. I do all of those things anyway, except for launching. I don't really launch at all. I do all of those things. I do the marketing, post the content, all of those things just to keep things consistently running and keep consistent, leads coming in and potential clients coming in. But I don't need to do those things. And it is really helpful because it means that actually I don't need to put a whole ton of time into that. Like I know so many people who will, spend weeks every single month figuring out their launch plan and creating all the launch assets and sales pages. And I've just created one sales page for my one-to-one program and that is one and done. And it makes it so simple for me to actually sell this offer. And it means that on a weekly basis, you can actually have more freedom with this model than any other ones. Because if you had a group program, you were needing to launch it once a quarter, let's say, and you're needing to go through this really big launch, this really time and energy intensive launch, you're needing to market it constantly. We need to get 15 people inside to even make up, the amount we want to be making each month, etc. It just creates so much more pressure. So actually, this model, even though on the surface it might not look like it, I would say personally, it actually can be the most freedom-led model that you could pick for your business, to be honest. So let's talk about then what are the pros of a one-to-one model. So what are the good parts, the parts which I find the absolute best and you might really enjoy as well. So firstly, it is the fact that you can actually have really consistent higher income months. It is so much easier to not be on that roller coaster as an entrepreneur if you are having something like one-to-one, because typically we'll be signing contracts for, 3 months, 6 months, even a year I've had with some clients. And this just gives you more consistent income, which is really, really nice when you are an entrepreneur and when your income can be really, really up and down. You're not then relying on any big launches. You're not relying on, I have to launch next month and we have to sign up 10 people. Otherwise, I'm not going to be making any money the month after. And also it means that we're not starting from zero constantly because we're able to just stack income months ahead. So I have 4 figures coming in already in December, which is 6 months away. And that is really, really nice. It just creates that extra room for you because you're able to have longer contracts for higher amounts with fewer clients. It just means that it's easier for you to actually get to that point of more consistent, higher income months as well. Now, on that note as well, you of course need fewer sales, which is really, really nice of actually there's not that pressure of every single month I need to sign clients, and your goal doesn't constantly need to be, I want to sign a new client, I want to sign a new client, I want to sign a new client, in the way that a lot of other models where, each client is paying you less. Typically, you're just constantly on this hamster wheel of I need to sign new clients. This actually makes it so much easier to get off that and actually be in that place where you can go 3 months without signing a new client and it's completely fine. Also, not even speaking about the fact of, returning clients and re-signing clients. I've literally got a few clients that I've been working with for, I think maybe the longest is 2.5 years at this point, which is absolutely crazy. Consistently been in my one-to-one program for 2.5 years, which is huge and which is incredible again for consistent income. This client, I signed them 2.5 years ago and I haven't needed to market again to get them. We've just had the conversation on re-signing and they've re-signed each time, and sometimes even for, year-long contracts. But actually you just need fewer sales, which is really, really nice. And it takes the pressure off of you and it just gives you a little bit more space as well. And it means that you can go, a month without signing a client and it's literally not a big deal. It doesn't need to be your main goal constantly. Now, another really, really nice part of one-to-one models is that actually you are doing so much deeper work with clients. You are going so much more in depth because you're working so closely with them that typically they will get better results and you will have better testimonials, you'll have better client case studies, and then it almost makes that cycle of it's easier for you to sign clients because you have really amazing results. So actually having this model is really nice because you just get to work longer term with someone, you get to work more in depth with them, really dive into their business, their life, whatever it is you're helping with, and just create more of a transformation, which means that their testimonial is going to be really, really amazing. Their experience of working with you, because we've just been working together for longer, they're able to have a bigger shift and a bigger transformation there, which means that you have some really amazing marketing materials just by default. For example, with me, I've been putting together together recently all of my client case studies into an Airtable and just fully saving all those so I can repurpose those in future. And I think so far we're up to like 15 client case studies. Not even just testimonials, case study ones where I've broken down, here's the big result we got, here's how we got this result, here's what the experience looked like. But that is so, so powerful because I have so many different client stories to refer to because of the in-depth work that is just involved almost as a default in times of one-to-one. Because if you're working with someone for 6 months, that can be a huge transformation you get them versus a 6-week group program versus a low ticket passive offer. Like there, it's very limited in terms of just what we can create because it's not as in-depth and because it's focused on maybe more one specific area rather than holistic. And also because there's just not that time span, right? You can create incredible results in 6 months versus a 2-week intensive. You just can't do as much, right? So actually it gives you just by default really amazing client results and makes it so much easier for you to then sign other clients because you've got these really amazing client results. And then the final thing that I'd say in terms of one of the big pros for one-to-one models is actually just the freedom from it. And that is kind of going back to what I was saying when I was talking about the myth of kind of it doesn't give you freedom, a one-to-one model. And it just really does. Like, I think it's such a misconception, and actually you can really intentionally create your offers to give you freedom in whatever form this looks like. I have clients who are mums and who are wanting to not be on calls as their main goal. So they have packages where they're doing one-to-one support, but it's just Messenger. So they're able to just voice note when they get a chance, when they have some quiet space, when the baby's sleeping, etc., versus having to sit on a Zoom call at 4 p.m. that day. That just is their version of freedom. And you can very much curate your package based on whatever your life looks like, whatever freedom you're wanting, whatever is going to give you the flexibility you're looking for. And you can do that in a really nice way with one-to-one that you can't really do with a lot of other things. It's kind of a bit harder with other ones. And also, as I said, we've got that fact of I'm needing to sign clients constantly for group programs, for example, I'm needing to launch. It just gives you the freedom to not need to do those things because you can lock in 5 one-to-one clients and you're good. Like they're locked in for 6 months, let's say. You have that consistent income coming in for 6 months. You don't need to market if you don't want to anymore. You can create a wait list. Like you don't need to open spaces. You don't need to launch at all. So it actually can give you so much more freedom when you really intentionally create it that way. Now that we've spoken about all the incredible things and you're probably really sold on one-to-one models, let's talk about the cons. So some of the things that you need to be aware of if you're thinking of having one-to-one in your business in any form, whether it is just a program you have or whether you want this to be the main part of your business like it is for me. What are some of the cons which you really need to be aware of and which you just need to think about, and which I think are the things which almost hold so many people back from either succeeding in their one-to-one program and it being what they want it to be, or even starting it in the first place? So the first thing I want to talk about is that the sales cycle is longer for one-to-one. So many people I see will start to talk about their one-to-one program, will sell their one-to-one program, and then be confused why they don't have a client after 2 weeks. And especially for a program like this, the fact that it is higher ticket, people are paying a lot more for this program versus anything else. It can take longer than 2 weeks for someone to sign on. Of course, someone could sign on after a few days and just be like, yeah, this is perfect for me, I'm sold. And also, clients can take longer. For me, I have some of my recent clients who have been following me for literally a year and have been watching my content for a year, then decided to work one-to-one with me. I also have some people who it has literally been like 4 days after they found me, they decided to work one-to-one with me. So it can be anywhere in between, but you've got to know that that is the case and actually be aware of that and remind yourself of that, because as you're starting to promote this program, as you're really talking about this, if after a month you haven't signed a client, don't stress. Don't think that it's, I'm doing something wrong here. No one cares. This is not going to work. You're nurturing people. That's all it is. And it's just going to take them a little bit longer. We wouldn't expect for a $5,000 program, let's say, that, someone necessarily, they hear about it once and they're like, cool, take my credit card. I'm sold on that. They need to hear it multiple times. They need to see about it. They're being nurtured right now as you are talking about the program. So allow and understand and be okay with that it's going to take a little bit longer. That is one of the biggest things that I feel like holds people back in terms of one-to-one. If they'll talk about it for 2 weeks and then no one was interested, so they'll be like, okay, I'll jump over to group program. I'll jump over to a group program because that feels a little bit easier there, and I'll launch something. I'll do this passive offer. It feels easier. But actually, when you look at the price point, like that one $5,000 client, if it took you 6 weeks to sign that client, for example, versus you doing a big launch and your launch was for a $500 group program, for example, you need to sign 10 clients to make up for that one-to-one, that single one-to-one client. You need 10 people inside that group program just for that. So actually, are we not better then holding out for that one-to-one client and actually talking about and fully selling this program for as long as it takes for you to sign that client versus actually jumping to something which feels easier but probably isn't actually easier. So just keep in mind here that actually even when it looks like it's quiet, even when it looks like nothing is happening, being consistent in your marketing. For example, with me, I think it was around February this year, I decided I wanted to sign some more one-to-one clients, and literally for almost 2 months, I did not sign a one-to-one client. For 2 months after I decided I wanted to sign another one-to-one client, I was talking about it that whole time. I was promoting it that whole time. But then after those 2 months, literally in the next 5 weeks after that, immediately following that, I signed 3 one-to-one clients. So that is just great evidence for you to just remember when it comes to actually consistently talking about it, even in the quieter times when it looks like nothing is happening, because all of those people, they didn't just appear in those 5 weeks. They were being nurtured in the time before. They were already in my audience. They were just being nurtured, hearing about the program. Then they decided to jump in at that specific moment. So actually giving it time is so powerful. Now, the second potential con I would say to be aware of when it comes to one-to-one support is that you're probably going to be pretty broad in what you're talking about. So one-to-one can feel really tricky because we're not as specific as maybe we would be with other programs. If you were to come up with a passive program or a group program or any other smaller offer, you can get hyper specific in terms of who it's for, what you're offering, how this is going to help you. You can get so specific there. But with something like one-to-one, when you're working with them for 6 months, let's say, we kind of need to take a little bit of a step back and kind of make it a little bit more general and focus on a few more different areas, because typically one-to-one is just more holistic. The fact that we're going deeper means actually we're touching on a lot of different areas. For me, for example, as a business coach, like there's a lot of times we'll talk about pure mindset with clients. We'll talk about sales as well. We'll talk about, their workflow and productivity. Like there's so many different areas we'll talk about that I couldn't possibly just say, I am a sales coach, I am a mindset coach, because that kind of isn't the whole picture in one-to-one. Like we talk about all of these different areas. So knowing that, one of the cons is that a lot of people will feel like their one-to-one is just so vague and all they're really saying to sell it is just come and work with me one-to-one, and no one cares about it. The way to make people care is actually thinking about what does differentiate you instead of niching down. Like what are the things which you are known for? For example, with me, I talk a lot about simple business. So I talk about making things really simple. I talk about how can we simplify this? I talk about making more, working less. I talk a lot about creating freedom from your business as well. So those are the things that are just the essence of my brand, the essence of my one-to-one program, why someone chooses to work with me as opposed to anyone else who is a business coach. So that is why my one-to-one really stands out. So have a think about what are just some of the things which just make you a little bit different, a little bit more unique, some of the real standout pieces for you and your one-to-one specifically, because it's probably going to be a little broad, and that is totally okay for one-to-one. And now the third con and final con, and something which you probably immediately think about when you think about one-to-one offers, is the fact that you are technically on more. You are going to be more actively on in your business. There's not really that passive component in terms of I'm just gonna, release these courses and release these modules and then I'm done with serving my clients. It's gonna be, we're on a Zoom call. It's gonna be, I have to go and check my client messages and I have to respond to them in voice notes. There's more on components where you're just more active in your business. So I would say though, this is something which you can just plan around. So again, that's the reason why I do 3 calls a month with clients. So I do have that buffer week. So actually, if I'm wanting to take vacation, if I'm wanting to have a week off, I can squeeze those calls around and just move those around, and it's not going to be a big problem. So again, that just comes down to you intentionally designing your one-to-one package to actually allow you a little bit of that flexibility so that there are times you're able to not be as on essentially, and just make it easier for yourself to be able to do that. So that's one thing just to be aware of, because I know it's really easy to get yourself almost in that trap of, okay, I'm going to have calls every single week. And then you're suddenly looking at your calendar going, okay, where am I supposed to find time for this vacation? Or I was sick this week. Okay, now I'm kind of screwed because I need to double up my calls another week or anything like that. So actually just almost thinking about those things ahead of time and thinking about, okay, with my packages, how can I actually make sure that, yes, I know that I'm going to be more actively on, but also I have that spaciousness for if I'm not able to be actively on, whether it's because I'm sick, family member's sick, something has happened in life, Wi-Fi is cutting out, or I just want to take a vacation, I can actually be able to shuffle those things around without it being a real big headache there. So I hope that has maybe shifted your perspective a little bit on one-to-one, or solidified your decision to introduce a one-to-one program. I think it is such an incredible model, and I feel like so many business owners just need to give this a little bit more time and just give this the proper recognition that it actually deserves. So I would love to know any of your takeaways in the comments, anything which really maybe shifted your perspective on one-to-one coaching and whether you may want to introduce this into your business. If you are looking to build out a successful one-to-one program for your business specifically, as I said, I've worked with so many clients, whether they are mums, whether they are full-time in their business in one-to-one, to actually just build out one-to-one programs which give you still really a whole load of freedom and simplicity and just flexibility in your life, and also are really, really successful and able to give you consistent high cash months in your business. So if you are looking to do that in 2025 and add one-to-one coaching as a real part of your business, then check out the link in the description and schedule a discovery call with me for my one-to-one coaching, because this is exactly what I can help you with this year. And I would love to chat with you about whether we could be a good fit working together. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this helpful and would love more breakdowns on the one-to-one model, then definitely give this video a like and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the new videos every single Monday. And thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.